Wait a minute. Now we got it. Now we got it. Wait a minute. Now we got it. There we go. Okay. Now we got it. All right, man. Well, so I'm usually pretty bad about checking the mic, the audio, make sure everything's going good before I record a live. Typically when you are doing a regular recording, you have the luxury of going back and making sure that everything looks right. You got the transitions, you got the audio, you have the music, all that. I don't have that luxury, so I don't know, and this probably will be loud today. I'll have to go back and make some modifications, but let me see if I can record it live. Okay. When you are doing that's pretty loud, but so that'll work. But anyway, today is August 13th, 2024, and I had a little bit of inspiration at the gym. So while I was at the gym, I was on the treadmill, and I was just looking back through some stock stuff, some market analysis, and I had a few ideas. Also, I was looking at the TradeStation forums that TradeStation has, and some of the senior advisors, the sentiment growing, the senior, the tech, I guess they call them tech something, tech support or senior tech support. But anyway, people were asking questions, and then they came up with some solutions, and so I was just kind of looking through all the solutions, seeing if I could kind of compile some studies, some strategies for me to work on to improve my skills. So I came up with a few things. Let me see. Sentiment growing. Let me see. So one of the things I came up with that I wanted to do was I wanted to put together essentially a script that can rotate, that on one chart, it shows the chart, and then it can rotate the ticker on a schedule. And then the other thing I came up with was that I wanted to come up with something that you know how the market depth has all these levels, 10 levels or so, it has all these levels. Well, the levels, they're just numbers, right? So they're sizes. So I was thinking about coming up with some type of algorithm, some type of calculation that will show if there's a bell curve versus if there is I think they call it like a P distribution, where there's more of the weight up top, less down bottom, versus if it's fairly even, or versus, and I'm just going to say B, lowercase b, where there's more of a distribution at the bottom. So I need to come up with something for that. I didn't get a chance to do that today. And then there's one more script that I want to come up with, which I can do that later on tonight, but it's essentially where you're looking at when the market moves. Some of the times you'll notice that the current order, so the order is here. So you've got the bids down low, you've got the ask up top, the market is somewhere right in the middle, and then every now and again you see, I already have a script for this, but you'll see where the bids drop down low, and then every now and again you'll see where the market gets lower than the bids, or you'll see where the market gets higher than the ask. So I think the script that I have, it looks to see if the asks are much higher than the current market, something like. But there's a script that I got to put together for that, and that one seems to be fairly simple. This script that I put together here, it's a little bit more complicated, I guess you would say, and it took me a little bit of time, but it allowed me to incorporate some other things back into the mix. So again, I kind of enjoyed doing it. It was a little bit challenging, but I enjoyed doing it. So here is essentially what the script does, right? So you have on the chart, you got ES U24, and then it rotates to NQ U24. And then next it'll be Apple, goes to Apple, and then next it'll go to NVIDIA. Okay, so, and that's on a timer, so it goes every so many seconds. Not only that, but instead of it going on the timer and just kind of rotating, I can click on one and it'll go directly to the one I click on, right? So if you're in a chart and you're doing a bunch of stuff and you want to pull up real quick, what's happening on, NVIDIA. You boom, you click NVIDIA, and then everything will come up NVIDIA. Instead of having to go and type it in, you can just click it. For whatever reason, that may be what you need to do. It may not be what you need to do, but the rotation feature is kind of cool too. So I'm just going to put together a script. Well, essentially, this is the script here, but I'm going to show you how I came up with it, and it took me the better part of 2 hours or so. I know, but I'm going to try to do it in as quick as possible. So if you do hop on while I'm on here, be sure to send me any messages. Tell me to slow down. Put some comments in or something like that. If you want to see something else or is something expounded upon later on another video or something like that, I can do that too. All right, let's see. Let's put together a script. We're going to call this. I just put YT YouTube rotate is what we'll do. Indicator. We'll call it YT ticker rotation. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna need a lot of this space here. We're gonna turn this one off. Call that one change symbols. We're gonna turn that one off. Move this over. And I guess I'm gonna put on a little bit of music. And I'll probably talk to you some, and then the other part I'll just kind of get the programming that way. If I don't get too off track, I'll be able to go ahead and put the script together and not actually get too confused. Turn on my music. Okay. Where to start? Because I mean, there's a lot here. All right. So one of the things we need to do specific, for sure, is that we need to have some type of a timer so we can go through a rotation sequence for the different tickers. So, and then another thing that we're going to do, because we want to put the labels on here, we need to have the namespace of drawing objects. So using EL system. I did use a vector as well. EL system drawing, using EL system drawing objects. All right. Variable, we're going to call one TL for text label. TL, no. One of the things I've like to start doing is putting the time that I start. So we need a text label. Okay, so let's start with the text label. Let's go ahead and bring the timer in here. I know I'm gonna need the timer. Open up the properties. We're just gonna call this timer. We're gonna have this on a 5-second rotation. So it's 5,000 milliseconds. Enable is gonna be true. Auto reset is gonna be true. Okay, so now what we're going to do, all right, let's go ahead and get that collection started too. So we're going to call this V vector of tickers, vector of symbols. V, so vector V symbols. It's going to be null. Okay, and so we're going to have a once statement. Once begin and okay, so for our vectors, we're going to put in several symbols. There's probably another, well, I know there's different ways that you can do it. We can use a token list and use a CSV file, or that's probably the easiest way to do it. Is just kind of write it out and make it a token list. I'm going to do that after the fact, though. I'm going to do everything that I kind of have already put together, and then I'll do a token list and then just kind of write them out, and the token list will pull it. So let's do, actually, that's a good way to do it. We can use it as an input. All right, so let's start with this. We're going to do, so once begin, we're going to have v symbols is equal to new vector. Okay, and with that, now that we have a new vector, we can go ahead and add the symbols, which will be v symbols 1 equals, we'll put, and remember it's got to be capitalized, ESU24. Come on. Alright, this next one to be NQU24. This next one to be Apple. This next one to be NVIDIA. Some of the big dogs. Some of the big dogs. Alright, so let's start with the first one of the vectors. So we're going to go to 0, and then we'll do 1, then we'll go to 2, then we'll go to 3. Alright, so now that all these are in the vector, now we need the vector. Let's first put the vector through. Let's go ahead and draw them on the screen first. Okay, so after we have all these in the vector, then we'll go ahead and do something called add labels. Add labels, that, and then this is going to be a method. So go up here, method, void, add labels. We are going to use an index for this. So variable index. I was always using X before, but now I'm gonna start using index. V labels dot count -1 begin end. Okay, so for index, or maybe I just do IDX. Yeah, let's just change is always difficult, right? So IDX, for IDX equals 0 to VLabels count. All right, so we need to create a text label that will then use this as the words for the label. Okay, so for IDX, we are for IDX equals 0. Now you see I put that in the wrong spot. -1 begin end. So IDX is going to be an integer because it's just the whole number. Okay. Alright, so we need to draw the new text label. So TL is going to be equal to text label dot create, and then we're going to do an XY point, so we put it at one specific point on the chart. So it's going to be XY point. We're going to go over like 1500 or so, and then we'll go down like 30. So 1500 will be the X distance, and then the Y distance will be, we'll start at 30, and then so for every label we'll go another integer, another increment of 10. So it'll be 30 plus 10 times the index that we're at. So if we're at the first index, that'll be an index of 0, so that'll essentially be 30 plus 0, which is 30. When we go to 1, it'll be 30 plus 1 is 10, so that'll put us at 40. So here we'll put the index times index. So that's the XY point, and now we need what it's going to say. Now, what do we want the label to say? We want the label to say what is actually in the vector. Okay, so in the vector, how do we get to the vector? We do v symbols of the index, which is IDX, and then this as type string. All right, now we have to draw the object. Drawing objects dot add it to the chart by doing TL, and then do that, semicolon, v labels, v symbols, sorry, create text label dot create. What's wrong with that? Overloaded, so we did something wrong here. So we got the X and we got the Y. Oh, we have to do the point, so it's a XY point dot create is that, which is the location. So the XY point is the location, and then comma the string, which is the which is what we want to have it say. Okay, once, let's put a semicolon there, once, okay, boom, hit that. All right, so now we're going to add to the chart YT ticker rotation, and that's going to be YT ticker rotation right there. Okay. All right, and there's an error that we get, so we got a vector is empty or invalid index. Why? IDX is equals 0 to v symbols dot count minus 1. IDX, okay, that's all fine. IDX here, that's good. TL is good there. V symbols equals new vector. Okay, V symbols. Now, I looked at something when I was putting this together. I looked at a few things, and I think one of the things that I saw was that this might like to be used only to replace the index, to replace what's in, it, not to add what's in it. So here I'm adding this. Here I'm adding this. Here I'm adding this. I don't think it likes that. I think it likes to use that to replace. So let's try it this way, and we'll learn something at the same time. So v symbols dot pushback. What do we want to push back? We want to push back ESU24. All right, and then comment the rest of that out. Go here. Add that, add that. So we're just pushing everything back. There's going to be NQ U24. This would be Apple, and this would be NVIDIA. Okay, verify that. Come back over here. Turn it back on. Okay, and it actually liked that. So yes, so indeed. And if we go over here, you'll see what I saw. Essentially, it just says, like I said, methods. Or here, when you put the vector and you have the index, then that's actually replacing the element at the element index, overwriting. So it's overwriting. Okay, you can't overwrite anything if it's not already there, right? So we can just get rid of all this because this is going to be extra, and it will not work this way. So I learned something. I typically don't do it that way, but I also typically don't write all this out either. Okay, so now let's open this up because we should have. Where are our labels at? All right, 1500, 30 plus drawing objects dot add labels. Let's open this up, make sure. Okay, so it showed up here. Okay. All right, so here are all our labels, but you see we didn't lock them. So let's go ahead and lock them so they don't move around on us. And while I'm working on this specific area, I need to maybe zoom in or something so it shows up. All right, so we're gonna move this back till it shows up while I'm working how I'm working. So instead of 1500, let's move this to, let's go 500. Did it show up? Nope. 250. There it is, 250. So we'll leave it right there. And then one of the programming texts, they were suggesting that if you use, instead of using the objects, if you use like a legacy version of the labels, that you can use something called like a percentage, right? So essentially when the chart resizes, it will keep this within a percentage of the available screen. Obviously, you know, you can do stuff with chart hosts and you can find out what the resizing of the screen is, and you can make those calculations itself. I hadn't got all into that, but that's definitely something you could do too. All right, so all right, we got that verified. Let's go ahead and lock these. So how you lock your labels, just go TL lock equals true. Now when I verify that, now I come back over here and I click it and I try to drag it and I can't drag it. Okay, but also when I click it, it doesn't do anything. All right, so for the meantime, this is just staying as NVIDIA. All right, but let's go ahead and make it so that it rotates. Okay, so we have our timer already set up for 5,000 milliseconds or 5 seconds on a timer reset. So when the timer resets, what do we want to do? Okay, well, we need to decide to do something. So we go to here to events for elapse, and when it elapses, we go to timer elapse. Okay, hit that. Once we click that, it creates a method for us, right? Already with these sender and the arguments in it. Now all we have to do is put in here what we want it to do. There's a interesting thing, chart host. I just learned about it this week. Chart host is charting host right here. Okay, so charting host allows you to do several things for the chart itself. You can do things with keystrokes. You can do things with clicking on objects, clicking on elements, whether or not you're clicking on the background, clicking on one of the bars, clicking on one of the objects. I hadn't even got into kill focus and set focus, anything like that. Order element move. Hadn't got into any of that. But there's active account change. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna go to properties. I'm gonna change this to C host and change the name. All right, and then you go to events. And events, what we want to look at is we want to change the symbol on the chart, right? It's going to do it automatically though. Okay, so how do you do that? Where is, you know what? It's not even, don't. I don't think it's on here. I think you have to do it just with the programming itself. So when the timer elapses, when 5 seconds passes, we want to do chost dot. And so you see there's different things that come up here that don't show up over here. These are all events, but these are methods. So these still allow you to do things. So we're gonna do method change symbol. Method change symbol, you put a parentheses, it tells you what you need to put as far as the data stream, which would be the first data stream, which is the 0 index of the data stream, and then we're going to put the symbol name. All right, so the data stream is going to be 0 because we only have one data stream, and then the symbol is going to be whatever the next symbol is. The next symbol, so we start off with ES, NQ, Apple, NVIDIA. So now we need to come up with some type of rotation to get us to go from one symbol to the next. All right. So how are we gonna do that? All right, so so we're just gonna work through the vector. We're gonna work through the vector, but how do we work through the vector? The vector is gonna be the symbols, right, of whatever index, right? So we have another index. We'll call it index 2, and this is where it gets tricky, though. This is where it gets tricky. So index of 2, and this will be as type string, right? Because this is saying that this is going to be on the 0 data stream. This is going to be on the this is going to be with the string of whatever's in the index. Okay, so now the index is already used the collection, the vector, right? So the vector was already established right here. So what we need to do is we need to use this second index here. So we're going to have variable IDX2. And I think I did a little bit different, but I'm going to show you kind of my thought process because I think this is valuable. All right, so IDX2 is also going to be an integer because it's just going to be a whole number when we cycle through. Okay, so for IDX2 equals 0 to v symbols dot count how many you have in your vector minus 1, right? You're going to begin. So this just allows you to cycle through your vector. Okay. So every time the timer elapses, we're going to change the symbol to the newest to the next index in the vector, right? We're going to start with the first index in the vector, which would be 0, and then how do we get to the next index in the vector? No, this doesn't need to be a loop. Hang on, let me take this call. so I got 15 minutes to get this down. Okay, all right, so here, so for IDX equals, so we don't want to go through a loop right here. If we go through a loop right here, we're just going to cycle through everything. We're going to cycle through all these all at one time. So instead of going through a loop, we need to, we're not going to go through a loop. We're just going to allow IDX to, all right, so we don't want IDX to just stay within the, well, it can stay, it can live within this method. It just won't come outside of the method at this time. All right, so the first index that's going to be called on would be whatever number we're on. It's just cycling, so it doesn't really matter which number we're on. But after we use that number, then we're going to say that IDX is going to add one to it. That way, next time we come around with the new timer, it's going to what? Give us the next element in the index, the next element associated with the index in the vector. Okay, so IDX is going to be, IDX of 2 is going to be plus equal to 1. Okay, so when we hit that, now we should be, all right, you see it cycled, so it was on whatever, and then it cycled to ESU. All right, now when it cycles again, it's going to go to what? We're going to change this. Change this timer to a shorter time just so you can see it. So every, not 10th second, every second. All right, so every second it should go from ESU to NQ. It should keep rotating. All right, do we have enable on? Let's make sure that the timer started. So after we do everything with the vector and add the labels, let's make sure that timer.start is situated. Okay, so now ESU. Come on. All right, so the first time, change symbol to IX2, we're adding one to it. All right, what I'm thinking, and I don't know this to be a fact, but we can prove it here. I'm thinking that whenever this method is called, it's going to re-establish, it's going to reset this IDX2 equal to 0. That's what I'm thinking. So let's hit that. So 0, 0, 0, 0. That's what it's doing. So, so again, something new that I learned, right? So that if using the method, then it's whatever your initial value is going to be reset on every time, and it won't store throughout the rest of the body. Okay. So what we can do is we can take this variable, we can move it out of this method and move it into the body. So we're going to make it also enter bar persist. And you know what? That was probably the issue there, but let's just go ahead and put it here. Inch bar persist, IDX2. Get rid of that. Verify. Okay, so now it's going to 1. It went to NQ. Now it came back to ES. Now it went to NQ. Now it went back to ES. So instead of going to ES to NQ to Apple, I'm telling you what the problem is, because it took me hours to figure it out. Well, I think that one might have took me like 20 minutes to figure out. I think the problem here is that when it resets, when the chart refreshes with that new ticker, it actually resets all of your numbers, all of your IDX. So your IDX2, it was a 0, and then it went to a 1, and then it went to it kept going. So, but instead of going from 1 to 2 to the next, it doesn't hold the value. When you refresh the chart, this value starts all the way over. So what we got to do is we got to use app storage. App storage is something I hadn't used in a while. You go to analysis technique here from the drop down to properties, and then you go to the events, and then you have uninitialized. Oh, where are we at here? Analysis technique. What replacement. Okay, here we go. We got initialize here, uninitialize. Okay, so when you come newly into the chart, you want to have initialize. So we have init. All right, when you have uninitialized, it's at the end of the chart before it goes over to the next one. So we have unit. Unity. No, we'll just put unit. That's fine. Okay, all right, so we have these two. So when it's initialized, we need to say if app storage dot contains a key, we'll call it my key, then IDX of 2 is equal to whatever that is. App storage at the key of my key as type integer, because it's going to be integer. Else, if it doesn't already have something stored in the app storage, which stores between different refreshes, if it doesn't already have something stored there, then we're going to say that IDX of 2 equals 0. Okay, and then when we get to the end of the chart, when it's getting ready to switch and go to the next symbol, we need to store that IDX, because that IDX is our rotation through our vectors. So when we get to the end of it, we need to store that IDX before it goes to the next screen. So we need to say that my app storage. Oh, we need to say that app storage of my key, and my key could be anything. It'd be whatever you want to call it. It could be whatever string you want it to be. App storage of my key equals IDX of 2. Okay, and then we verify that. No errors. Well, how about that? Okay, you see we went to Apple, NVIDIA. Okay, and now we went to vectors invalid or empty, vectors empty or invalid index. Why? Because we kept cycling through, and then we finally got to the end of the vector, and now we're still trying to add to it. So we need to perform this, and if the IDX of 2 is equal to the last one in the vector, then we just need to reset IDX equal to 0. So it goes back to the beginning. Okay, so we'll say if IDX of 2 is equal to v symbols dot count minus 1, then if it's equal to that, then IDX 2 equals 0. If it's not, then it'll just add 1 to it. All right, verify that, come back over here, refresh that rotation. Now it's what? All right, so we got it again, vectors empty or invalid index. Let's make sure that we have that right. All right, so if IDX of 2 equals v symbols dot count minus 1, then IDX equals 2. Dun, 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 dun. If IDX of 2 equals v symbols dot count minus 1, so it's that final one, then we're going to reset IDX of 2 equal to 0. If it's not, then IDX 2 plus equal 1. I mean, that's right. Oh, what happened was, because app storage stores this, and it stores it through charts, it stored this number that was too high through that last iteration, and now it's in the system. I could probably go through and reset that my key, but instead of doing that, I'm just going to change the key. So we'll just change it, and then we'll just make sure that we keep it right. So we're going to call it my key 2. My key 2. And how many else is that? It my key 2, my key 2, and yeah, I think that's it. All right, so I verified it. Come back over here. Let's add it back. All right, so now we're going through ES, NQ, Apple, NVIDIA, ES, NQ, Apple, NVIDIA. Boom. So it works perfect. All right, so the only other thing that I was going to do, and I really don't have time because now I got to go meet the wife, but I was going to put a clicker on here. So anytime you click one of these objects, it will go to that chart also, and that would look something like this. So it would be a drawing object. So we need to do a drawing object. We'll call it DO null, and then we'll come over here, and then for our once statements, let's go ahead and add a once for that. We'll call it DO equal new. Actually, we don't even need to do that. Because it's just going to take the place. So so once we have one of these objects, and we click on it, we got to do another method for that. No, we don't, because we created them up here. We created the text labels up here. So before we go ahead and draw and add it to the chart, let's put one more thing in here that says that TL, the trend line, if you click it, that it'll plus equals a method handler event, which will be change tick, and then we need to know how to define change tick. Define change tick. We go up here to the dictionary and we'll do click. So if we click on the object, we got to go to drawing object dot click. And this is what we have to put in it for the object and the sender. Copy that, go over here, delete that, close that. All right, so that we start our, I forget what we called it. I think we called it change tick. All right, so we do a new method void change tick, and then that, and then begin, and then end, and then what do we want to happen when we click on either one of those? We want it to actually take the string of the ticker name and then do a change symbol to that. So we're also going to use the chost, charting host dot change symbol. We're going to change the first data stream. We're going to change it to what? To what symbol name? We're going to change it to the symbol name of that whatever we click, which happens to be, we're going to do the drawing object is going to be drawing object, which is DO, which we declared up top. It's going to be equal to the sender, this sender here, whatever we click, it's going to be the sender as type, and this is going to be a text label. Okay, and then so once we get the drawing object there, now we're just going to take the drawing object DO dot, and I think it's not the name. I forget which one it is. Let's go to text label, and then once we right click, that'll come over text string. Text string is going to be what the actual text is. Do dot text string. No, verify. No, I didn't like that. Okay, so let's make DO instead of a drawing object. We're going to make that a text label, and that way it just takes one extra step out of it, because we could take it from a drawing object to a DO, which is a drawing object, and then take that to another text label. That's the extra step. So let's make DO a drawing object. We'll just call it DOL, so that way you know it's a drawing object label. All right, so we're taking the sender, which is a text label. If it was something else, then you know that might cause us to need to make that extra step. But this is a text label, so we assign it to a text label, and that becomes this guy here. So DOL. Now text string should be valid. Okay, verify that. Okay, so now we got the rotation going on. We got NVIDIA ESU, NQ. But now when I click on either one of these, you see it changes to whatever I click on. And just to kind of give a little bit more confirmation there, let's go to the toolbox. Here we're going to go to the timer. We're going to change that elapse of the timer to something like 5 seconds, which is 5,000 milliseconds. Verified. Okay, so now it'll change less often, but if we click on this, you see it's on NQ. If we click on NVIDIA, it'll go to NVIDIA. If we click on ES, it'll go to ES. If we click on NQ, it'll go on NQ, NVIDIA. All right, boom. So there you have it. That's how to put everything together so that you can go through a rotation of your tickers through a vector, but then also it's a label on the chart so that you can also then click on any one of the labels that you want and it can change to that as well. The only other thing that I was going to do, which I'm out of time, but what you can do is you can put this as an input, and then so when you go over here to your chart, you can actually input all of the labels, input all the tickers that you want into one string, use a token list, take that token list to drop it all into the vector. And that would be awesome. But anyway, if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the chat, or drop them into the comments. I got to get out of here. I'm Eric. I'm out. Peace.